we
Just so you guys know, we're recording and we're live on YouTube.
Okay.
For our audience of countless, right?
We're famous, guys, okay?
How about Pat, Julia?
I'm sorry?
How about Pat?
If she's there, she's there. I don't think she has, she doesn't have video. But Pat, you're
Okay.
there, right? You can unmute. Because I see that Robert Krause's name, which is probably what she's using, but it's muted. Here, unmute.
Pat, Pat, can you hear us?
And Julia, I sent you a picture of, on your phone, a picture of the map that I looked at the town hall today.
Oh, good. Thank you. Let me get that.
Does anybody know how many solar panels there will be there?
31,000.
Man. It's a lot, isn't it?
44 acres.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I pushed unmute, only I hung up the phone by mistake and had to do the whole thing all over again. So I have no camera or microphone on the microphone, but I have the screen on so I can see anything, any maps or anything. And I'm going back on mute. Thank you for setting this up.
Or go on to a green dot here, Deb.
Dave, I did not get an email, I mean,
Yeah.
a text from you.
Oh, I
Just
just
check
sent
my
it a
phone.
little bit ago.
No, it should be there right away.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
And how about Sue?
She's there.
I'm right here.
Oh, hey, Sue, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I also
Nice.
sent Dan a picture of that map for the solar array.
Oh, let me get it. Hey, darling.
I've got the big blow up. I don't know if you'd be able to see it or not.
Does anyone have it in their email and I can share my screen or
No.
do you?
Oh,
Victoria, yeah, they didn't scan it.
Okay,
So
it's because it's so big, right?
there it is. Yeah.
Vicky, is there a way to see everybody, or do I just see the people that are talking at the
So go to
particular
your
time?
go to the top right corner of your screen
Yeah,
and they should say view. What one's clicked on for you?
it says record live and on YouTube.
So go to the other corner.
Oh, wait, no, okay.
got it,
Participants?
No,
Oh, I
Are you-
got it. Thank you.
do you see all of us?
I do.
Okay.
and how did you do that?
When I touched the top of the screen, some choices came up, and on the left side, there was like a grid that I just touched, and the grid shows everybody.
Oh, okay. There we are. Nice. We're gonna learn how to do this.
Yeah.
What piece of property is this, Dave?
It used to be called the Burgett Farm, but it's at the corner of number 6 Road and West Henrietta Road on the
Okay.
northwest side.
Where the trailers are Harper Homes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
everyone
that
see that
used to
okay?
be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is this new to us? Because I thought I heard that like this was a return view or something.
Well, let me give some background to that because I feel very involved. Originally, we were told there was hardly anything for us to review and we weren't going to have the meeting. But then, Amber said that there were these things coming in front of the planning board and suggested that we look at them too, and we all agreed. And then, I had let the people at the town hall know we would be having a meeting. But I guess they either didn't understand or didn't accept or didn't see it or whatever, because earlier this week they were saying, well, are you going to have a meeting? Aren't you going to cancel it? And Shelley again told Dave, well, there's nothing for you to review. So Dave said, cancel it. And I said, but I thought there were things for us to review. And I spoke with Shelley, and she said, well, the things that are coming before the planning board were already seen by the conservation board, but now the applicants have put in revised applications. And I didn't know that the conservation board should see them before, when they're revised applications. I said, well, I think we should, because, our comments could be moot if they change the application. Then what we said on the past application isn't going to apply to the new application, so we should see it. And then Pam told me that they were not revised applications, that they were the same applications that we've seen before. So it seems to be a bit confusing.
But we never saw it before.
Yeah, did we see the solar proposal before? I don't remember.
This one,
I don't
no,
either. I don't remember seeing it, no.
Oh,
no.
that's the confusion.
Yeah.
We heard about it, but we didn't see this. We just saw a map blocked of the area. Because I know, Dave, you and I had a conversation about if that was good farmland or not, and you said it was good.
Oh, yeah, I just went by it and it's all tall corn standing there, it's beautiful. It's a shame to see it turned into that, but for 30 years, it's gonna be this.
And I'll just give you all an update if that helps or not. This is, I think, the third or fourth revision of this company that's come before either the planning board or presentations maybe a year and a half ago. His name is Tom Guzak. If I said that properly or not, I'm not sure. He's done multiple presentations at town board meetings over the past couple of years. So this current one, Julia, is different. It's actually, it was bigger, then they made it smaller, and now it's I think it's 7 megawatts. Last time it was about 4 or 5 megawatts.
And maybe
So-
that's something we can address at the end, this whole issue about revised applications. But we can maybe talk about the application now, I guess.
Are we reviewing the most current application then? Because the
Yes,
one I
this-
read
this one-
was 8 megawatts.
Oh, is it 8? Okay, well,
Well,
Then that probably-
I
that's
didn't
probably it,
notice
John.
the date, and I don't know which version it is. What I first noticed was the applicant was from California. The project contact or something like that was from Michigan. The property owner was an LLC out of Avon, but I note that the email address was for a Howlett. So is it a Howlett property?
Yes, that's who owns it.
Okay. But it's a California company and the Michigan guy is just a project coordinator?
Yeah. I'm trying to look.
my understanding is there is a large conglomerate of investors and money. So I'm not sure if that's the California or if that's the Michigan. And you're
Okay.
right, Don. I see it is 8 meg. It's back up to a large scale. New York State had I'm not sure if it's changed or not, but a maximum size for any solar installation of this size was 5 megawatts. So maybe the governor changed something since their last application. That was something I'll check into. I'm sure they know what they're doing though.
So
And-
what's the limit when New York State has jurisdiction more
Article
than
10.
the town? Yeah. Yeah,
That's
Article 10,
25.
25 megawatts?
20. Mhm,
Okay, so this is under the town's jurisdiction then.
correct.
So has anybody looked at the map on there, how they're gonna put a 7-foot high chain link fence all the way around it? And then some of the fence is gonna be open. And then some of it is gonna have slats in it as kind of a barrier, so you won't be looking in on it. That's what the map said.
Yeah, that was part of my question. I just looked at the application that, we got online, and it didn't mention fencing. It didn't mention security. It didn't mention any visual buffers or,
Yeah, I think they're gonna have cameras in there. There was something about that in there.
Reservation, say, make me a reservation and followed by the restaurant name. When prompted, provide details.
I'm going out for dinner?
is that me?
I pressed the wrong thing on Danny's phone. I was trying to get,
Don't we
The-
require a visual buffer like trees? I listened to the planning board meeting
Um,
about,
Yeah, there's a thing in there about, a couple different notes about, planting green giant arborvitaes. There's, I had it written down.
That helps
let's
it out. I
see,
don't know if you can
There's,
see that or not.
3 different plantings of them, 30, 47, and 72. And then there's an existing hedgerow, which they're using as a screen. And then on the west side of it, which kind of faces the woods and the wetland, there's a 7-foot plain chain link fence. And then around the rest of it and going along by the expressway, there's a chain link fence with slats on it. And there's a 200-foot setback from adjacent properties.
is there
Um,
any, do they say how the size of the trees they intend to plant as a visual buffer?
No, they just say green. I never heard of them. Green giant arborvitaes.
Hmm.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
a
Planting
huge
1 foot
discussion-
tall ones.
How many feet tall?
That would be something, that they could do is, they've got them all, let's see, they're gonna be 15 foot on center. I imagine that they'll be good size. It doesn't say what size they are planning.
How
There
far
was a huge-
from,
Go
how
ahead.
far from the road are the panels, Dave?
What do they got here? 350 feet from the right of way on the road on number 6 road. So it's gonna sit back quite a ways.
Yeah, that's a long ways.
And then 200 foot is the other buffer all the way around it. Let's see. Yeah, that's all it says is 200-foot setback from all the other property lines. And there's a wetland, federal wetland that goes along the west side of it also.
I think that's a New York State wetland on the west side, but there's some federal wetlands within the work site.
Right,
And
not by very much, but there is, yes.
yeah, and according to the application, they received what they called a letter of no permit from the Corps of Engineers. I think, they said that there wasn't a whole lot of background, but it said that there would be no impact to these federal wetlands because the panels would be installed on driven posts, and apparently that's acceptable to the Corps of Engineers for not needing a permit.
And how many panels did you say there was gonna be, Don?
30,888. 10 foot high, 6.4 wide, 3.3 long.
And are these all fixed? I'm pretty sure they are.
You mean on motors? Do they pivot or
Yeah.
something?
You're right.
I didn't read that, so I don't know.
Well, they had some kind of a note on that, but the degrees on it was just 0, like they were gonna be just fixed. Not,
not rotating.
yeah, not following the sun or whatever they call that. Axis, on the axis. So I imagine that they're wanting to do, I wonder how they're gonna connect to, well, they'll probably put something along number 6 road, but straight across number 6 road is a huge And it feeds our town too. The, the electric
Substation?
pad there. The same one that's like down in Gola.
Mhm.
So is that where they tap into the grid, or I didn't see that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Reference.
most likely, I think. I just lost my picture for that. I got it upside down.
I think so. That would be the only reason why I would think they would put it in that location, because it's right
Right.
across the road from the substation.
Right. That's what I was looking for, substation.
So,
In their previous applications, everyone, there was a lot more detail than just a map and the environmental assessment. So maybe there's more coming. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Or they're
there's a
gonna
big
use
folder
part
at
of
the
the old.
town hall on this.
Oh, okay.
so the Werner project, was that like 30 acres or something? And is this considered,
26.
okay, 26? And is this considered
believe so.
44? That's the acreage for the panels, I guess. So that's 44 and 26 is 70. Is that 70 acres out of the town's 150? Is that how it's compiling?
Yep. And there's a big gas pipeline. So it's actually two installations. I don't know if you can tell, but that pipeline that runs north and south.
Yeah.
So they've got one installation on the west side of the pipeline and one on
Yeah.
the east side of the
Yeah,
pipeline.
that's a gasoline pipeline that ran behind my parents' house
Oh,
up through the woods.
Is it
Right.
still gasoline or?
and it-
Yeah, it's gasoline.
Holy cow, I didn't know they
Comes
did
in,
that.
comes into by the airport there to those big tanks there.
Oh,
And there's more than one.
oh. So I hope they don't drive the solar panels through the gasoline pipeline.
says there's a 50-foot row for the petroleum company, whatever the name of the company is. So they have to have a 50-foot right of way or easement between the two installations.
So the
Yeah.
44 acres is divided by the gas pipeline?
So
I
they're,
believe
they're,
so.
they're gonna put telephone poles going back to where the transformer pad's gonna be.
Yeah,
I didn't see
off
any
of number 6
about
road.
that gas line though. Huh.
It's
Oh,
up
yeah,
on the,
50-foot right
on the
away
north-
for design purposes, only pending verification from petroleum company.
yeah. There's that big yellow sign right on number 6
Yep.
road where the pipe must go under number 6 road and onto Mulligan's
Right.
property, I think.
I didn't have a comment sheet, but does anybody have any comments?
I think what we've seen is still kind of scattered since I haven't really seen the map. So like I said, I had questions about fencing, security, visual buffers. Now, I guess they are addressed on the map, so I'll take
So
your,
those stanchions are gonna bring those up to 10 feet tall?
well, they're listed as, it says 30,888 panels, 10-foot high by 6.4 wide by 3.3 long. So
And how high are the buffer trees supposed to be, did they say? I thought I heard
14 feet.
14 feet.
but
And
during-
it's 350 foot back from the road. The trees will help, but that's a long ways.
Well, I'll let you know, Don, the neighbors to the west on Woodruff Road have a pretty good straight line sight to the installation because it's a higher elevation.
Okay,
So the town code requires 2 rows of evergreens, 12-foot on planting height to visualize and buffer the projects.
okay.
There
They
was,
obviously don't show that on the plan. Go ahead, Pat.
there was a long discussion, as you know, Amber, during the planning board about the height of the trees. Now, I don't even know if that was Helios or Forefront that I listened to with the planning board, but the presenter from the company, or the ecologist for the company, whatever, was stressing that the 14-foot trees would die. They would, like, almost certainly they'd lose 50% of them or something like that. So they were feeling that in order not to lose so many trees, of course, Don is our tree expert, they would plant much smaller trees. So I can't really quote all that was said, but it was counterintuitive to me. I thought larger trees would be really strong and established and great, but that's not what they were saying. So I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it's, it's just easier to transplant smaller trees, and, there's a lot of trauma when you're, digging up a tree and moving it. But,
Right.
I'll leave that up to the landscape architects. I'm not an expert.
And Pat, that was
Thank you,
on the Forefront one.
Uh-huh.
This hasn't come before. They'll be talking about this in 2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
And for everyone else, the planning board and the town engineer, Don, are meeting with a tree expert to have that discussion, so everyone's on the same page of the type of soil and the height of a tree that would survive best at each of these locations.
Good. And Dave, you were saying this is prime agricultural land?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Has been for my whole life that I lived right around the corner there.
It's really unfortunate. I believe the town of Lima has passed laws saying no solar installations would be allowed on prime ag land because, of course, how important the prime agricultural land is, and when it's gone, it's gone. And I mean, 30 years is a generation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we still don't know much about the decommissioning and long-term effects. But Rush doesn't feel the same way about protecting the agricultural land.
Well, they have an agricultural protection, right? Preservation, right? They
Yes.
passed a whole thing.
Yes, but there's nothing
I
to,
understand what you're saying, Pat, right?
yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Because without that type of ordinance, they couldn't prevent it based on the issue of the prime agricultural land, is that right?
Our town solar code says it's allowed anywhere in any zoning, isn't it? And we don't have agricultural zoning, as I understand it. So our ag land is basically residential zoning, and the solar installations are allowed, as I understand it, with the town solar code.
Okay, so does anybody have any comments or, concerns?
I have another question. It says that there's a historic building on the site, the Barber Mulligan Farm.
Oh, that's nearby. That's to the south of it, up off of Barber Road. Quite a ways from there.
Oh, is it? I thought the application said it was on site. I might be wrong,
No,
but
no.
maybe it was just within.
Yeah,
Why would
there
the application mention it then? If it's that far away, why would it even be on the application?
Well, sometimes
You-
you
you
have to
can
put
see-
like how close you are to
Right,
ag district or a park or whatever.
right, yeah. I read that today. Is there any historical significance nearby there?
You can see the cobblestone Mulligan original farmstead home on Barber Road when you're driving by it, just to the south. I drive it every day to work. I mean, it's not miles away. It's probably half a mile, maybe, Dave. I'm trying to
As
think
a crow
Barber Road
flies,
from
it's a
there.
half mile.
Yeah.
Well, one of the comments was that, the federal wetlands, they said they were to be affected in a minor fashion, and then the Corps of Engineers letter I guess I'd just like to see the Corps of Engineers letter and a little more detail about that.
Good point. And what about the state wetlands?
There to the west, it says any runoff would head, I don't know if it's like a higher slope there, but towards the wetlands or towards 390. So, but it doesn't sound like there's going to be a lot of runoff. There's only like a 400 square foot pad for the transformer and the switch gear.
How's the land gonna be maintained after they're in there? Are we getting goats or sheep this time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't see their maintenance plan yet. I do know the homes to the west of it have had, I'm aware of complaints of the wetlands running into the back of their properties, but I don't know if that's just because the hydrology has changed over the years or not. I'm trying to see the names here.
Yeah, there's a pretty good
I can't
swale that
remember
runs
which one.
down through there. That wetland there.
As far as comments are concerned, I think we have some concerns about the screening, about the tree issue. At least
Okay.
need clarification on that and how they're going to make it effective. I can even understand the argument of supposedly starting out with smaller trees, but that means it's going to be that much longer until you have the screening also. So that's another issue. And even though we might not be able to do much about it, we could at least mention the loss, that we're concerned about the loss of prime farmland.
Okay.
Do they have any of those visual representations? I mean, what it will look like from the road? Don't they make those fancy pictures for us sometimes, or?
Not
Gonna look
for
ugly.
this most recent one.
Amber had
I'll-
mentioned, sorry.
What I can do is I can go back over the next few days of the old applications of the same developer and see if I can find any sort of visual impact study. I'm not aware. I'm trying to remember if this, I don't want to get the two confused. So I will see what I can find up. And if I find anything, I'll send it out to you.
And what is happening with the Werner solar array?
That is coming before the planning board at their next planning board meeting. They had a public hearing on it in September, but they tabled it because there were questions on the visual impact study of clarification on the trees. They weren't doing 2 rows of trees. They were going to do a row of trees. I think it was 20 foot on center. And then they were going to put mountain laurel as the second row, because I didn't know. Maybe Don knows. I looked it up. They're considered an evergreen. I never knew a mountain laurel, like a rhododendron, would be considered a quote
Yeah.
evergreen. But
Doesn't get that big though, does it, Don?
no. And they were their thought was because the type of trees, tall trees they were putting in might get a lot of dead branches on the lower portion near the ground. So the mountain laurel in front might help to screen that visual impact type
Yeah.
of.
Oh, plus
view.
they're so pretty. I like that idea.
Oh, yeah.
So they're getting together with the town engineer and the landscape architect. So everyone's on the same page, so there's no surprises.
So is Werner's project up for approval at the next planning board meeting? Will things
I-
be moving
I
forward?
think so. Yeah. And then the last thing would be come back to the town board. So they're pretty far into the process. That company has been done pretty much whatever the town has asked them to do.
So after the planning board approves, then what does the town board, do they approve also, or?
The town board approved what's called the solar overlay district, so that a solar installation could go in that spot on this specific specs. Then it goes to the planning board, and they then verify their expertise of the visual impact and all the other site plan review and special permitting and things like that. And then it comes back to the town board for the final stamp.
Thank you.
It's not, it's, I have to repeat it quite a few times in my head, Don, because it isn't just a one-stop shop there.
Right.
Okay, the comments I have are effects on the wetlands, the Corps of Engineers report, maintenance of the property after installation, verification of the trees, small or large ones planted, and loss of prime farmland.
Was there a
Anything-
lighting question at all? Or I just, would there be any lighting for a facility like this, Dave, or what do you think?
I think they're gonna have some cameras there, but I didn't see any mention of lighting.
That's what I'm asking. Would there be, or?
Yeah, I can put it down. You know, if there is any, I'll put that down just for,
The only other thing you may see coming with these type of applications is battery storage because of all the research that's being done on battery storage installations. But
Don't we have
I did not. We have a moratorium right now, correct?
Yes, yes.
So is the fencing just around the panels, or is it around the 100-acre parcel, or?
yeah, it's just around the panels, really.
But that's 44 acres, and is that a wildlife concern, or you know?
Well, it says 7-foot chain link, so that's, you know, pretty high.
And Don, they do go all the way to the ground. There's not an elevated portion for animals to go in and out that I'm aware of. That's from what I've seen so far in the previous application. So I can't verify this particular one, but.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
What's the time frame on this? Does anybody, do you have the idea, Amber?
This company has, before I would say at least a year and a half, I think, if many of you have been going or listening to town boards meetings, I can remember seeing them, yeah, probably a year and a half ago, at least. So they're now starting all over because they have changed their project. So they're starting from scratch.
So you said this is bigger than their first proposal?
I want to say the first one was either 7 or 8 megawatts. And I think the reason they started because of that pipeline, it's actually considered 2 installations. So now both of them are separate, so they can each be 5 megawatts is my understanding, how it could be. And then they went before the planning board in the fall, I think it was, and they went down to 4 megawatts. So now this one is coming back at 8. I have not seen any more than you have to get a better understanding of why or why not.
Would the planning board be possibly approving it at this upcoming meeting, or you think there's more?
No, the first step that has to happen is the town board has to hold a public hearing for a establishment of the solar overlay district, so that a tier 2, or this is considered tier 3, would be an overlay zoning district on top of an R30 district. So they're trying to, right, why would you put more money into a huge multi-million-dollar development if the planning board wasn't going to help you figure out what you needed to do first? So before they go through all the town board steps, they've gone through the town board once. We referred it to the planning board, so that's where they're at. If the planning board is just going to give they have 6 criteria and they have to judge, not for approval, just to say, okay, yes, your project has these 6 things. Then it comes back to the town board for solar overlay district approval with a public hearing. And then the town board refers it back to the planning board for site plan and special permit. And if that's approved, then it comes back to the town board.
Okay, thanks again.
So there are many, many checks and balances to make sure that everyone has looked at it and feels comfortable. with the
Except us. Checks and balances, it didn't come to us.
No, yeah, again, I'm new to you guys. I'm surprised that you have not. So I think, Julia, you're right. That's a question for process and procedure that you guys.
So
should
who
work
does
out.
quarterback that? I mean, who should be making, directing which way these proposals go?
Well, ultimately, it's the town board that sets process and procedure for the boards. And I will tell you, I worked with Attorney Mancuso this summer on understanding that, because that was my question. Who does that? But it's a town board that is, you set your guidelines, your chairs, how you run your meetings, but the town board establishes your process. So if that is something that you want me to bring back so we can have that discussion of, yes, you would like to have every application come before you for your review, I'll be happy to do that, or we can talk outside of this, or however you want to do that. And
No, I
we'll
think-
put it right in writing.
I think
Yes,
this is the-
Julie and I talked about that earlier, and yes, that would be a good idea.
Okay.
And that would include revised applications. But
Right.
Well, I would say so, absolutely, because if anything has changed, as you said, Julia, and everyone else, I think I heard you say that. I mean, this went from a 4 megawatt to an 8 megawatt, but it would have been nice for you to understand the 4 megawatt or the one before that, so you could see what had changed, to feel like either your questions had been answered or maybe not.
Right, and if it changes, then whatever we're looking at changed, and whatever points we have could still be valid or could be moot. And but I think also to Don's point, I think the town board sets the sets the rules for it, and I think it isn't it, if I'm not mistaken, it's the town clerk that implements them, and is the one who's supposed to make sure that each board gets what they're supposed to correctly. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, we
So
want to
we'll-
move
we
on
will work
to,
on that.
we want to move on to the next one for the, what is the next one?
For the temple.
The
The
temple
temple,
on
yeah.
East River Road.
What's the proper name for that?
Sri Vidya New Temple.
Okay, we'll just call it the temple.
I think it's, what is it, SRIVIDYA?
Yeah, capital SRI, capital VIDYA. New Temple, or that's how it was handwritten on the application or the assessment.
I think the new just refers to their new construction. I don't think it's like newcomers or congregation or anything like that, I think. But I may be wrong on that.
That's just how I just copied what they wrote.
And that's going to be 25,000 square feet?
Almost
I
29.
don't know if this helps at all. Did you guys get the map? I can hold it up. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah, I looked at it
Is it-
earlier there. Were they
Right-
going to
right
keep
down?
the old buildings that are there?
It's kind of confusing to me. They're going to have 3 buildings when they're done. It sounds like 2 smaller buildings plus the temple, but I'm not sure what the other buildings are for, or I didn't.
Well, they've got existing buildings right now. Were there those going to, will this new temple take the place of those? Well, it will take the place of them, but will those still stand, or were they going to remove those buildings?
I'd have to read it again. I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, I
My-
didn't read that. I was just wondering it.
I think it's a phased approach. If anyone else was at the planning board meeting, Pat, do you recall that? I seem to recall it was like a phase 1, a phase 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually
it-
didn't hear their presentation, but that's what I
Okay.
think when I toured it, because it was on the Rush Historical Tour. That seemed to be what they were indicating. The existing buildings are very much still in need, I
All
believe.
right. On the back of this one, it says phase 1. So I'm thinking that it must be that.
And they did get approval for the 54-foot tall tower?
There you go.
I think so.
Yes, the zoning board did approve it, right, Victoria? I recall that.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, I think back in June.
So
maybe.
why are we revisiting this one? Has it been revised?
Well, I see a date, 9/10/20.
Mhm.
So they're doing something different that they're submitting on September 10th.
Well, I think before you reviewed it just because of the zoning board, right? Now you're looking at the actual overall site plan for for phase 1.
Fine, yeah, final approval then?
There's an EAF long form, an agricultural data statement, an environmental sensitive feature addendum.
Yeah, we looked at all of that earlier. And there's a
Okay,
creek that
all
runs
right.
in the back, but there's a slope that goes down to it.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
And I can't remember if we talked about this or not, but, you know, they're naming a couple of sensitive environmental features. So with that, aren't they supposed to show a mitigation plan? You know, to minimize or avoid impact on those sensitive features.
There'll be a lot of runoff off of that too, with the roof lines and the parking areas. How much that has increased.
I think it's 1.7 acres of impervious surface added, so that's significant.
Okay. I'll put down stormwater runoff.
Well, actually, that's a question I had, because someplace in the application, it said they were gonna have create a stormwater impoundment, but I didn't see any more detail about what the impoundment, any detail on it, like how big it was, what the volume was.
Well, like a retention pond?
Well, I mean, that's what I presume.
Okay,
If you want me to, I just found it says stormwater management area. There's a big, sorry, Victoria, we couldn't get the scan. Do you see this big loop here?
Sorta.
You guys, East
Yeah.
River Road, it says stormwater management area.
So is that like a swale, like a shallow?
Ah. Good question.
probably a retention pond. I'll put that down as
It's right along East River Road.
oh, really? I thought it would be in the
Yep, 'cause
back.
Yeah, I know. Here's East River Road. I'm gonna get my light on it. Maybe it will help a little bit. I don't know. That probably is worse. Sorry. Here's East River Road right here.
Yeah,
And there's this, it says stormwater management. That kind of thing that looks like an amoeba.
yeah. And then there's a
What's your
ditch
name?
that goes right down East River Road there downhill to that creek.
Mm.
There must be something in the back also, or maybe there is existing stuff because of the other buildings in the back.
Where is Railroad Creek? Wasn't that the water
Yeah, that's the
feature.
creek that runs in the back there.
Yeah, right.
And then it crosses under East River Road there, right on the S curves there.
Oh,
And then goes to cross Ryder Hill Road there. Is that Ryder Hill Road? Off of East River?
Perry Hill?
Perry Hill, yeah. Ryder Hill is up high in industry.
So the creek runs north-south, like parallel to River Road?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Runs more to the southwest there.
Oh,
Down by those approved lots on Perry Hill Road.
So I kind of recall that it was a distance from the work area. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
yeah. That's why I thought they would go out the back because it slopes down in the back to the creek. But maybe most of their impervious surface is up front, and they're better off to have it up front, like a retention pond, which nothing may ever flow out of it.
Yeah.
Just slow it down.
Another question I had was the form said that they'll be creating an extra 640 gallons of wastewater per day. And so, I'm just wondering what their septic system is like. Does the health department have to reapprove something like that? I mean, it sounds like quite a bit of extra wastewater.
Was the septic system or the septic system being added onto? Or they're
I
trying
didn't
to,
see that.
yeah. Okay.
they did a perk test, and a deep hole test is on the plans.
So maybe they got to use their expansion area that's usually called for the first time around, right?
I don't know if that helps. Whoops. It's down in the bottom right corner there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Is it blurry?
Too blurry for me.
Okay.
It's too small.
It doesn't take
too.
much though.
And I have brand new
Sorry.
eyeballs.
I was gonna say, you've got new eyeballs.
Any other comments on it?
My only comment is very unimportant, but on the form, they have to note nearby parks, and they note Mendon Ponds, but they don't note the Rush Riverside Refuge or the Linear Trail or maybe Oak Openings, but they're right down the road from Rush Riverside
Yeah,
Refuge.
right away from Mendon Ponds Park.
Yeah, I don't see that it's important, but
Yeah.
I noticed it.
Everything adds up though, and inaccuracy on one thing, can be a sign of other problems. I think it'd be a good
Yeah.
idea to note it.
Yeah.
So is there exterior lighting for this development? I don't think I saw that addressed. I know they got approval for the taller temple
Yeah.
height, which
Probably going to be light shining on that.
I don't know.
Yeah. And neighbors nearby too. If you got tall lights and a lot more parking, there's a lot more light pollution from that.
Well, you probably have lights for the parking lot, right? And
Yeah. So I'll put that down, lighting affecting neighbors. Would be a lot of traffic going in and out of there too. And the speed limit through there, I think is 45 maybe.
Mhm.
You get the four-way stop at the 251 intersection now.
Yeah, that's been there a while. That's a
Yeah.
good. Anything else?
I have a more general thing about format, something also that Amber had brought up on the phone. Why are we not in the 21st century on these things? You know, why are we trying to hold up a map to a Zoom window? You know, and Shelley was complaining bitterly about how much time it was going to take to scan and email to us all of that application information. And my understanding is it's supposed to be, and it would certainly make sense for the applicant to submit these digitally, and certainly not only in hard copy. So I don't think it would be out of place for us, since we were quite compromised tonight, you know, in our ability to evaluate this, you know, to say that these should be submitted digitally.
And what are they doing for the planning board?
Apparently the planning board each got hard copies, according to Shelley. I guess the
yeah.
applicant submitted, she said something like 10 hard copies. So she mailed one to each member of the planning board, and also, I guess, to the town attorney, you know, and she kept saying, well, if not for the pandemic, you all would have, you know, would be meeting together and you'd have one map to look at. Which is true, but we are in a pandemic, and you know, so we can't all gather around and look at one map. And if it's supposed to be done digitally, then why isn't it?
Should they be able to scan one of those maps, one of those big maps?
Not necessarily, depending on the scanner. But I mean, that's really up to the applicant to do that. They
Yeah.
could do it. They could even, you know, they could email the, you know, their original drawings, which I'm sure were not done on paper. They would have been done on a computer, and that could simply be forwarded to us electronically. Why are we even looking at something? Why is something even being considered that's not being submitted in the proper format? I don't understand that.
Yeah, you're totally right. And it is hard for us to do a complete review because,
Mhm.
you know, these things were shown on the maps that all of us don't have. And so, yeah.
And I believe on the planning board documents, it says they have to be submitted electronically as well as the hard copies. So, because the county's going away from hard copies as well, but then they wanted hard copies, but the town has had that on there for a while, is my understanding. So I appreciate, again, I will bring that up again, and because all the boards do, is we don't need to have binders full of paper anymore. We can store all this up in the cloud and pull it up when we need it.
Yeah, and so if that's the rule, I don't even understand why it got this far without it being in the proper format. Just a question, I guess.
I'll find out and get back to you.
Thanks.
I think in the past, we also discussed and sometimes got like the projects like on a Google map or something that you could that showed the, you know, showed the existing conditions on the ground. That might be asking too much, but it makes it easier when you're talking about creeks and wetlands if you have it available. You know, I call it up on my iPad and then I got like 2 or 3 maps open and going back and forth, but it'd be nice if you could see the project all better compiled.
Well, Don, what would be great is that the GIS system from the county that shows all that, because we could share that screen from your computer or whatever, and then we can all see it at this, all your board can see that at the same time. That's a great idea too.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I should clarify, I didn't mean by any means to single out the second of the 2 applications for not having been submitted in digital form. That was true of the first one too. God, you know, you think it seems to be a large corporation, you'd think they especially would have been able to submit it digitally.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Vicky, are you still there? The fax number for the town hall?
Are you trying to throw me off and ask me a trick question? Hang on, let me Google
It's
it.
the 21st century, Dave. We don't use fax anymore.
Yeah, really.
Hang on, give me a second. I'm gonna write this down for the next meeting so I remember, because I think we did this last time.
Yeah, right.
At my agency, it's e-fax. They can send us a fax, but we get it as an email. And the same thing, if they want to get it as a fax, they could get it as a fax, but we send it as an email. There's a way.
All
to-
right, you ready?
Yep.
533-9346. And I'm gonna write this down so we.
Okay. I'll write it down too. Okay, we need anything else?
Nope.
Okay, this was a good meeting.
Yes, and actually, so far I'm liking the 7 o'clock format. Might be a little
Yeah.
harder if we go back to meeting in person, but it's nice to be, we're right now, it would be 8:30 if we started at our former time, and it's only 8 o'clock. That's nice.
That's good.
Yes, this is much nicer. Thank you.
Hey, Dave, when is the next one? November 5th? Is it the first
First
Thursday?
Thursday.
First
Yeah,
Thursday.
first Thursday.
All right, so November 5th and then December 3rd. Okay. Do you think you're gonna keep those two?
Yeah, as long as we've got something to review.
Okay,
And it'd be nice, if we know at least about a week ahead of time, so we can prepare for it. If anybody wants to stop by the town hall and look at something, or if we can get any maps or other comments about the projects emailed to us, that would probably help too.
Yeah, I think, Don, you've obviously spent some time going over it, before the meeting, which is great. I, appreciate your doing that. I did a little bit, but not as much as you obviously did. And I think that's a sign that it's good for us to have it in advance and not just be looking at it for the first time at the meeting.
All right.
Yeah,
And Don,
no doubt.
did you go to the town hall and sit down and look at things?
No, there were just the two PDFs for each of the projects. So no, I didn't get to look at maps, but I looked at the assessment forms that were emailed.
But yes, you can also go to the town hall and sit down and look at the maps and make any notes if you want also. That's what I did today.
It's a good thing to do.
Okay,
Yep.
we're all set?
Good to see
Guess our meeting's
everybody.
adjourned, 8 o'clock.
All right, good night,
Good night.
guys.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Victoria.